Hello crafty friends, today I'm sharing with you 10 cards I've made with the Spellbinders Kit titled Beauty is Everywhere. This is a really pretty kit and I'm looking forward to sharing my cards. Card number 1, I've taken this pretty page out of our paper pad and I've fussy cut around the bird image and popped some ordinary foam onto the back. And now I'm taking the background paper and I'm lining that up with the top corner of my card and gluing that on. And then I can turn it over and trim off the excess paper from the card base. I'm then going to take my fussy cut bird image, add some glue to the foam on there, and then I'm going to arrange my image onto the card so it covers up the area where I cut it out. This helps the image to stand out from the background. I've then used the little leaf die in our kit and I've cut it out quite a few times, and I'm going to put that around the edge of the doily. So it's just going to pop underneath there and add a little more decoration as well as texture. I'm trying to space them out fairly evenly to start with, and then I'll come back with the leaves that I have left over and fill in the spaces between them. And I'm not gluing my leaves down flat. I like them to be left loose at the tips so that they can fluff up and be that added dimension that I'm looking for. So now I'm just going ahead and filling in some of the spaces in between the leaves that are already stuck down. And the last one is going on now. Once I'm happy with how they're spaced and arranged underneath my bird, I'm taking one of our die cut lace borders and popping that up on some foam as well. And you can see there I don't have foam tape all the way to the end of the die cut piece because I'm not going to need the entire part of it. So using the glue allows me to wiggle it and move it around so I'm happy with the alignment. And then I'm going to cut off that little piece there, and I'm not going to throw that away. I'm actually going to use that as part of the decoration on the bottom part of the card. So I'll just gently lift up that leaf and then pop it underneath the cutout edge of my bird picture. Then I can trim off the excess part of my die cut. Okay, so I wait for my glue to be dry underneath the bird image, and then I've taken my glossy accents and gone over top of the little bird just to give it that ability to draw your eye to the image. And then I have die cut out Love You with dies that we've got in a Spellbinders kit about a year ago that is full of little sentiments that you can join together. And I've chosen a Love You theme and I'm popping it in the right hand side so that it looks like my bird is looking up and directing the eye to that sentiment. Card number 2, I've chosen the Map of Paris paper and I've used that to inspire what I'm going to do with this card. I'm going to place on my matted layer, which is that map, and you can see it's just a tiny bit smaller than the card base. I've then taken one of the frames and I'm popping that up with some foam. I've also included my acetate and I'm going to make a shaker card. So I'm using a variety of black sequins and then I'm bringing in a white and cream mix. And then I'm also adding in a few little peach coloured hearts to pick up on the orange in the paper. So I've put a pile there and I do discover that I've got a few too many and I will take some of those out because the frame won't sit nice and flat the way I want. And so I just remove a few, and then I've attached the frame onto my card base. I've also taken the sentiment, the Ooh La La sentiment, and I've popped that on top of my shaker frame. And then I'm using this really lovely die set from La La Land Crafts, and it cuts out the word Paris, but it uses the Eiffel Tower for an A and one of the lamp posts for the I, and then we put on the S for Paris. I'll give that then a little bit of time to set because we've got the acetate there, and it does take things a little longer when they're glued onto acetate. So it's dry enough now. I'm going to go in and add my final sentiment, and I've got that popped up on some foam square and just placing that at the bottom underneath my shaker element. I think that's a lovely way to use that die and tie in the whole theme of Paris. Now, card number 3, I've chosen the pale green coloured paper. That's going to be my background. So I'll get that attached, and you can see that I've cut it slightly smaller than A2 card size. I'm using Pink and Main flag banners there, and I've cut my printed paper with the hot air balloons out with that die, and I've also then cut it out with some foam. And I'm then going to take the pretty edged die that we have in our kit, and I'm going to attach that to the right hand side of my card, my panel with the balloons on, just to add some of that gold detailing and decoration there. And because I've put it on with glue, I've got the ability to wiggle it around until I've got it in alignment where I'm happy. So now that that's set, I've taken the balloon, hot air balloon from our ephemera, popped that up on some foam squares, and I've also given it a little bit of curve to it, so it's a little more dimensional, and I'm going to stick that on and glue it on. Then I've got my sentiment here also popped up, and it says thankful. So this is a nice way to say thank you to someone, or that you're thankful for having them in your life. I wanted to add some more dimension to the hot air balloon, so I've taken some of my pencils and I'm just going in and shading in some detail just to give it a little more dimension. So I'm adding brown to the basket part of the balloon, making it darker towards the edges, just simple colouring. It's not a large space. And then I'll go over that with my glossy accents, and I'll also go over top of the colouring I did on the balloon part where I used the greys and blacks to add some more dimension to the balloon. I'm going to come in with some of the gold pearls from Spellbinders. I'm just going to add a few of those to put a little bit more of the gold touch onto the card. So 3 of the gold pearls there, and then I decided I'd scatter some onto the pattern paper with the balloons. I'm just showing you there the dimension of the card and how the balloon is also curved to give it a bit more depth. Card number 4, I've chosen to use the lovely peach coloured paper that has the peacock on it, and I wanted to make a focal point of the peacock. I actually really like peacocks. I think they are beautiful, and so I'm going to add to the pattern paper, but try and make sure that the focal point there is still going to be around the peacock. So I've taken a scrap piece of the glitter spotty paper. I've also taken our die And instead of having the lacy part of the die to trim that scrap of paper, I've used the other edge where we've got the rectangular punch out design. I've also then used some dies from my stash, and these are Spellbinders peacock feathers, and I used the same spotted glitter paper to cut out 2 of the feathers that I'm gluing straight down. And then I've also taken our lovely gold mirror cardstock, and I'm going to cut out a feather from it and add it to the card as well, just so we've got a little bit more of that gold. And I'm just fussing there with a little bit of the feathers just to make sure I've got all the edges glued down. And here's that gold feather I was talking about. I'm going to carefully add my glue on. I don't want too much, I don't want it to seep out and go on the front of the cardstock because it does mark it. And now I've got my sentiment, and I've popped that up on some foam squares or foam strips. I like to add a little bit of glue just to make sure I've got good sticking power, as well as the ability to lift it up if I don't quite place it correctly. I'm bringing in some Your Next Stamp sparkle gems, and I'm going to, I should say enamel gems, and I'm just adding one in that green teal colour to that gold peacock feather. Then I'm going to bring back in some of the Spellbinders gold gems, and I'm going to place one on either side of my sentiment like it's been studded to the card front. Now I've got my scrapbook.com sparkle pen, and I'm just going over my peacock, and when it dries it does become quite sparkly. So once I'm sure it's dried, I'm going to go back over my peacock with my glossy accents, and that'll help bring that image out even more. For card number 5, I'm going to make the focus for it the butterfly die that we have in our kit. So I've chosen to add a cream base layer, and that's the cardstock from our kit, as the background for my die cut butterflies. And you can see there I've cut a stack of black and a stack of the gold mirror butterflies, and I've also put in the opposite colour of the bodies of the butterflies. And I'm going to go through, apply glue to the main areas, and I found using my finger was the best tool to spread the glue where I needed it to go without it going everywhere. So you'll see there that I've covered most of the card in a pattern with the black and gold butterflies, and I'm just trimming off the excess pieces. I will keep those and use some of those to fill in the gaps. And these are lovely little dainty butterflies, and I think they make a really pretty focal or background for sentiment. So I go through and I organise those leftover pieces to fill in a few of the gaps I had. I've also taken from a previous kit back probably about 2 or 3 years ago, and it had the bonjour sentiment with it, and I thought that's perfect because a lot of the themes in our paper collection have a French inspiration for them. So that's exactly what I've done. I've gone through my previous kits and found the bonjour sentiment. Now, to give it a little bit of sparkle, I've pulled out some Nouveau drops here, and it's clear with a gold glitter through it. Now, instead of putting it on really thickly, I'm just applying little dabs of it onto my sentiment and using my finger to pat it over top of each of the letters. And I'll do that until I'm happy with the coverage that I've got onto my sentiment. I don't want it to be really thick. I just want that little hint of sparkle to go back with the feel of the card making it feel elegant and quite a simple card, but very pretty at the same time. And you can see there, I'm just dabbing it on, spreading it out very lightly, and when it's dried, you can see the gold flakes of glitter over top. For card number 6, I'm bringing in a scrap of that pretty light green coloured paper from a previous card, and I've cut that into a nice slice that is slightly smaller on the edges than the card base. I've also taken this, what looks like typography, and cut it with a scalloped die to give it that nice border there. I've taken our chipboard typewriter and now I've pulled the floral detail off it so I could then add in my bow die cut, and then I've reattached the floral part onto the typewriter. Now, to ground my typewriter, I'm going to place it on top of one of the pretty glittered doilies that we have in our die cut pack, and that matches back really nicely with the glittery bow that I've put on the typewriter. Now I'm just getting the upper pieces of my card ready, and I've cut myself some little flags, and you can see it's that nice tealy green coloured paper that has the glitter spots on it, and I've cut myself 3 different sized little flag banners, and I'm going to attach that to the top right hand corner, and I'm just trying to balance out where I have the different areas of green on the card to pick up on that, and you'll see I've placed the green background up in the top corner. We've got the green of the typewriter and sentiment, as well as the green strip down the bottom. And at the moment I'm using Blizzard Nuvo drops, and it's got a nice greeny hued glitter to it, so I've added that onto my sentiment, and that's going to match back really nicely with the green that's on the card. So it's a really simple card, but I think it looks really, really pretty. And just like, don't forget that you can pull your cardstock stickers apart and personalise them to suit you. And it's pretty simple to do, and you can really get individual finish when you do that. I felt like I needed to add something to that decorative border on the bottom of the lettered paper, so I've used another glitter Nuvo drop to go around and just add on those little pink details. For card number 6, I've taken a Kaisercraft embossing folder, and this one has a doily background to it, and I just thought it was really pretty and went really nicely with the theme in the kit with that really vintage feel. So I've run that through my die cutting machine, embossed it, and it's going to cover the entire front of my card base, and just making sure it's nicely adhered in all places. I've then cut myself a rectangular piece of the pretty floral paper, and I've also taken one of our border strips from the die cuts, and I've cut that so it fits across and glues onto that background panel of the flowers. I've also taken another one of our frames that we had in our kit, and I've turned that frame again into a shaker element, so you can see my acetate there ready to go on the frame. So now I'm just going to glue on my background piece of paper for my shaker, and that will go onto the card front in the middle of the card. And just pressing that down because you want to make sure you've got good coverage there so that the embossed areas do adhere. And I've got my powder tool there, just taking off some of the static that you can get I've got my little Nouveau brush there, and that's just to sweep out any excess of the anti-static powder. So to fill the shaker, I'm using the sequins in our kit, and I decided I'd try adding in one of the butterfly die cuts. I'm not going to glue that down. I'm going to leave it so it can float around inside the shaker part. Now I've only done one layer of foam tape on my frames. I usually only use one layer, and you can see I've got sequins everywhere. I had to remove some again. I got a bit generous with how many sequins I had put in there. And once I've got my front of my shaker attached to the background, I'm just adding on another little decorative flag there, using up all the little pieces I had left over from previous cards. And then I'm going to attach the main sentiment with foam tape and glue, and it's a live, laugh and celebrate. So then I thought I would add on some of the sequins just to match back with what's inside the shaker to the top of my flag there, and you can see I'm just attaching 3 of the sort of more matte sequence there, and then I'm going to add 2 of the more metallic pale pink to the little sentiment doily, and that will be my card finished. And everything shakes around well inside there. Butterfly doesn't move a lot, but it does move a bit. I really like how there's the embossed doily detail and then the lacy detail on the frames, and then you've got the doily with the sentiment as well, and I just think it's really effective having that repetition of shape and textures. For card number 8, I have chosen this pretty black and white floral patterned paper, and I'm going to see what I can do with this whole black and white theme that we have going through the kit in certain elements and some of the papers. So I've cut myself down a rectangular piece of the pattern paper, and it's about 1/8 of an inch smaller all the way around. I've then taken a piece of plain white foam, run that through my die cut machine with an embossing folder, and you can see the pattern that it's very lightly pressed into there. I'm then taking the decorative die strip we had in our kit, and I've cut that out twice. I'm going to attach that to my white foam piece that I've cut with a fishtail banner die, and I'm going to just glue there on to the foam my decorative edges, and I have deliberately tried to make sure I've got them even and level so that the pattern is the same on both sides. So now I just need to trim off the excess pieces of my decorative border, and once that's done, I'm going to then position my fishtail banner in the centre, and it's going to be the main focal area of the card. And to glue down the foam piece, I do like to use glue rather than tape or tape runner, just so that I feel that with foam it gives a much better stick, and I find it a bit more durable. Okay, so I've got my fishtail banner there on top of my black and white paper, and now I'm taking the large flower that's part of our chipboard sticker pack, and I'm just adding more foam strips to the flower. I felt like just the one dot of foam in the top part of the image wasn't going to be enough to support the flower once it's placed on top of the white foam banner. And I have added some glue to the background of that just to have a really good stick. For card number 9, I wanted to experiment with using some stamps as well as those really pretty acetate butterflies that we had. I found it difficult to match the butterflies back with the pattern papers, so I needed to find a way that I could use some of the pattern paper but also include those really bright coloured butterflies. So the way I thought I would do this is I pulled out some of the dark grey scripted paper and I've cut that so it's about 1/8 of an inch smaller all the way around. Then I took some of the light pink cardstock in our kit and I've run that through a with an dotted embossing folder just so we've got some extra texture, and I'm going to add that up the top part of my pattern paper there, and I'm trying to make sure I've got it on nice and straight. So now I'm going to work on where I'm going to place my stamped butterfly images from our kit. I am going to add 2 to my background there with the sentiment, and you can see I have also the 2 acetate butterflies as well as one of the glittery die cut butterflies from our kit. And I just want to try and space the stamped images so I can then work out where my coloured butterflies will go. To finish the edge on the top of my sentiment panel, I'm going to, or I have cut out a lacy sort of doily strip, which was included in one of the small dies of the month in the last year or so. So I'm gluing that directly to the top of the white piece of paper. Then I wanted to finish off the bottom edge. I've taken a Love from Lizzie pinstripe peel off just to go along the bottom there, and it's just that pale pink, but the glitter detail in the peel off matches really nicely with the glitter detail on the butterflies. And you can see in the background there, I've also gone around that pink polka dot embossed paper with the peel offs as well, just to tie back to the peel off I put on the bottom of the white piece, finish it off nicely. So now I'm going to go ahead and add my large chipboard butterfly, and I've just lightly bent up the wing so that it has a little dimension. And then I've got 2 of the acetate butterflies, and I'll take them off their backing, add a little glue to the back of the foam strip, and I'll attach both of those to my card. Now I still have plenty of those butterflies left, but I wanted to work on the black and white theme of the paper and the black and white with the stamped sentiment and butterfly as well. To finish off my card, I'm adding in some of the flat pink coloured sequins that match back to the pink pattern paper really nicely, and the dots on the embossed pink paper sort of reflect the circular shape of the sequins as well. For card number 10, I've taken some of our white paper from the kit and I've used a Crafter's Companion peacock feathered embossing folder, and that's going to be the background of my card. Just making sure I've got plenty of glue there, and that's going to go in the center of my card. You can see that I've cut the paper, so I've got about 2/8, 3/8 of an inch on either side of the panel. I'm then going to take the "You have a little je ne sais quoi" sentiment, and I'm just going to then place images, all black and white images, around that sentiment. Now that sentiment is popped up with foam, and that allows me then to add glue to my die cuts and then slip them underneath the sentiment, because it's got that room there to put them underneath and have them sit nice and flat there. So I've just pulled one each of all the black and white images, and I'm working my way around trying to make sure I've got a balance of images so that you don't have large images only on one side, that they're spaced around. So now I have got the feather die cut, and I'm going to place that on top, or resting over top of the sentiment. And to make sure it stays level, I've got foam squares at the top of the feather to keep it the same height as the sentiment oval we've got there. I've got this pretty little fan. I'm also going to have it glued to the front of the sentiment, and I've added foam squares to the part of the fan that is going to be overhanging from the oval base, and that will keep it nice and level. Now I've taken the flower die that's in our kit, or both of the flower dies, cut them out of our gold foil paper, and then I've used a flower shaping tool to really cup the flowers up, and that gives them lots of nice dimension, but you also get a nice round base that I'm going to come along and decorate as well. So I'm just placing an arrangement of 3 flowers at the top, so 1 large and 2 smalls, and then I'm going to add 1 large flower to the bottom as well as one of the smaller flowers. And they take a little bit to get to sit flat because they are so rounded, but you just give the glue a little time to attach, and it sits in there nicely. To further decorate, I'm going to bring in some of the very pale pink sequins, and I'm just going to tuck some poking out from underneath the sentiment and others scattered around the image. Just add that nice sparkle as well, and it gives just a little hint of a colour other than the black, white and gold. And there's no real rule to where you attach your sequins. I think it's just whatever is pleasing to your eye, and I really like having some of the sequins tucked underneath the image. And now I'm going to bring in some dream drops, and I'm going to make a nice little pearl centre in each of those flowers that I've added to embellish my card there. So this has a light pink pearlescent or iridescent finish to this Nouveau drop, and I think it just gives a really nice hint of pink to go back with the sequins as well. And you can see there I'm just giving my card a little tap on my desk to make sure my Nouveau drops sit nice and rounded. I had to trim off the little point of the beak of the bird so it was level with the card. And now I'm bringing in some more of the Love from Lizzie peel-offs. These are the really wide ones. And I've chosen the gold mirror finish to go and match in with the gold of the flowers we've got there added to the frame. I'll trim off the excess and I will keep that bit for another card. I then take another one of the peel-offs and I place it down the right-hand side of my centre panel as well, just to finish off the edges there in a really pretty and elegant way. So that's my 10 cards finished for this video. And you can see here in a final look at all 10 cards that the glossy accents and the Nuvo drops are all dried, so you get the full impact of those finishes on the cards. I'd like to thank you for joining me today. I hope you're having a great day, and I hope you find the opportunity to be crafty today. Until next time, thank you again, and bye bye for now.